Good morning, happy Tuesday, and thank you all for joining us yet again. My name is Bradley Pallant, and I'll be your moderator today. All attendees are in listen-only mode. You may enter questions in the chat box at any time. All questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. Today's webinar is Business plus Leisure equals Bleisure, and I will be answering the what, who, why, and where, and what is driving Bleisure-related decisions, and the benefits surrounding Bleisure travel. So let's get started. So what is Bleisure? As we know, it's business and leisure travel combined. And as you can see, the age generation, the millennials, as we know it to be, 18 to 30, are really driving this point. And as you can see, 6 out of 10 travelers are more likely to take a Bleisure trip today than they were 5 years ago. So we really have, over the last 5 years, Bleisure is now a mainstreaming part of the business. As you can see, the Bleisure traveler habits, more than 1 in 2 travelers taking Bleisure trips are bringing family members or a significant other. Almost 1 in 5 of the 35 to 64-year-olds and only 1 in 20 of the over 65s are most likely to combine a business trip with a leisure holiday. And the 3 most popular Bleisure activities are sightseeing, dining, arts, and culture. As already mentioned, millennials, and they're truly the ones to watch. More than 9 in 10 younger travelers are more than or equally likely to take a Bleisure trip in the next 5 years. And the primary reason for Bleisure travelers among the 35s is because they are in a city that they have never been before. And almost 2 in 5 do not bring a significant other or family with them, but would like to. What's interesting is, what are the corporations saying? And most company policies, and when it comes to the employees, are unsure if their company even has a policy with regards to Bleisure. 14% are aware of the policy, 59% say that there is no policy, and 27% just simply say they're not sure. So what are they doing? 83% say they use the time on business trips to explore the city they are visiting. 60% said that they have taken a Bleisure trip, with 30% of them adding 2 vacation days to the business trip. And 46% add personal travel days to business travel every trip or to most trips. So why are they doing it? Why are your employees insisting on adding additional time to their business trips? Well, 96% are saying that they gain cultural experience plus knowledge during these trips. 78% feel adding leisure days to business travel adds value to work assignments. And 73% of travelers feel Bleisure opportunities benefit them as an employee. So who exactly is Bleisuring? Who is the Bleisure travel? What is the profile? So as you can see on the left, under occupation, technology, healthcare, and manufacturing are driving this. 26% in the technology sector. The business trip frequency is also a major factor. 38% are doing business trips every 2 to 3 months, only 32% once or twice a month, and then as you can see, as we get lower, 10% are about once a year. And the business trip length is a huge factor into this decision. And clearly, as you can see, 2 nights is at 42%, 3 nights at 29%. So the longer we sort of go with business trips, you can see that generally that is the business trip length as to the reasoning why we're going to extend. And whether we like it or not, Bleisure is here, Bleisure is now, Bleisure is mainstreaming. 43% of business trips now are Bleisure. And of that, 84% of past Bleisure trips stayed in the same city or area. And it's getting bigger. You can clearly see that domestic is leading the charge when it comes to Bleisure at 87%, whereas international is only 13%. But what is quite interesting is of the 87% domestic, 42% is Bleisure, whereas the 13% in international, 52% is Bleisure. So overall, 43% of Bleisure is amongst all trips combined domestic and international. And what were we doing pre or post? So what is driving that? And as you can see, 43% of conferences or conventions are the driving factors as to why they were adding, whether it be pre or post. Client meeting presentations, team building, and then sales trips and others then make up a smaller portion. And how long was the trip? Leisure days equal or exceed business days in most cases. And as you can see, 37% equal number of days for leisure and business, 21% more days for leisure than business, but as you can see, 42% more days for business than leisure. So they could be a 3-day business trip and they've added 2 days on. So that would then add on into that 42%. And the longer, the better. With business trips with 3 or plus days, 30% more likely to add leisure onto the trip. So when we break that down, 62% indicate the length of the business trip was a factor in extending the Bleisure trip. Those that were traveling for 1 to 2 days, 54% that they would potentially look at extending, but then clearly those traveling 3 or more days, 72% of travelers were potentially adding on additional days to their business trip, thus accounting for Bleisure. Now, the benefits of Bleisure, the benefits to the employees. Business trips are a great opportunity to save on travel expenses, especially for those who don't take a lot of vacations. And 66% tend to spend more money on leisure activities because of the money they saved on travel. 60% of Bleisure trips because they don't take a lot of regular vacations. And 54% tend to plan their business trips around the leisure activities they intend on doing. Now, what's driving the typical Bleisure trip when it comes to accommodation is 84% are usually staying in the same hotel, whereas 34% are then changing to a different hotel or potentially staying with friends and family or with the likes of Airbnb and room sharing becoming a more popular mainstream type of accommodation. That is now starting to creep up as well. And the reasons for not staying in the same hotel, 72% were saying that the expense of the hotel was the driving factor. Obviously, family or friends, 58% were saying that they were moving on from the hotel. And surprisingly, 54% were determining on how close the hotel is to their leisure activities. So, for example, their business hotel may not be close to popular tourist destinations. So 54% say that they were changing their accommodations so that they weren't having to commute back and forward from these tourist destinations. But it's not necessarily about where they're staying, it's all about where they're going. And 66% were saying that by traveling to an exciting destination was a driving factor as to why they were extending their business trip. 59% were looking at it from an additional cost, and 51% how close the trip is to a weekend, i.e. they then wouldn't need to then take personal time or annual leave. So if their business trip was ending on a Friday, 51% most of the times were then electing to extend over the weekend. So what are these travelers doing? What are these bleisureers doing? And 85% were considering not only the destination, but obviously the sightseeing locations in that destination as a major driving factor. And as you can see, beaches, food, weather, museum, arts, sports were among the top considered reasons as to the destination they were going to. Now, from a destination standpoint, as we know, domestic is driving bleisure. And from the major cities that have been stated for being the best for bleisure trips, you can see that New York City, Seattle, Los Angeles, and San Francisco are all among the top 4, well into their 60s, within Chicago, Washington, San Diego, Austin, more so adding down the lines. But it's varied and a broad part in geography across the United States. And what was interesting is a recent survey by ACT, the Association of Corporate Travel Executives, by a global travel manager in Europe, is we get asked about bleisure almost every day. People want to extend their trips, and they say it's not a problem. All they ask for is transparency, so they know what's happening. And as you can see, from 42%, the number of inquiries had increased, 43% no change, and 11% of the numbers of inquiries were declined. So it's clearly exploding across the globe, not only in the United States, but around the globe in all countries. So what should we do about it? Well, the main key takeaways, the 43% of business trips turn into bleisure, and many trips last 4 or more days. Destinations are the first researched topic and the lead decisions, with sightseeing and the restaurant scene being key influences. 84% of bleisure trips spent in the same city or area as the business trip. The path to booking is short, normally 1 to 4 weeks, especially the inspiration and the research stage. And most visit several websites, i.e. it could be the event website that they could be going to for a conference or a convention, or an online travel agency, i.e. an Expedia or a Priceline, which is at 41%, which is leading the category as far as the research concerned as to the destination and what they wish to do as part of bleisure. And of course, when we start talking about leisure, here at Travel On, we do have our own dedicated leisure department called Travel Place. They are professional, they are personalized, and they know firsthand how to bundle leisure trips together. We have 3 locations more so across the DMV, in Bethesda, Potomac, and Manassas, and we welcome you to call or visit one of our 3 offices today and let our experts help plan your next vacation. So let's open it up to questions, but while we wait for some questions to come through, I would like to add that there is no hard and fast rule, nor one size fits all when it comes to adding Bleisure to your travel policy. This is a discussion that must be had internally with the relevant stakeholders, for example, HR department, finance department, to ensure complete understanding and buy-in by those decision makers. Set expectations, avoid ambiguity, share expense guidelines, define payment protocols, set appropriate boundaries, define the booking process, and consider the bigger picture, i.e., liability, insurance. These are just some areas to look at. And I welcome you to discuss with your Travel On account manager who can assist in answering questions and help in implementing a policy that is specific to your business. Okay, we'll open it up for some questions now. How are companies addressing Bleisure travel in policies? Do you have a sample policy to share? Great question. Again, we can certainly help you and we can certainly share samples of Bleisure policies with you. Again, there is no hard and fast rule nor a one size fits all. This is something that collectively we can all work together with your internal stakeholders and obviously your account manager to ensure that we are dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and making sure that all parts of Bleisure as it comes to your travel policy are being addressed and the employees' best interests are being addressed. And again, we are avoiding ambiguity and making it as easy as possible. So we can certainly help and share best practices and policies there. Another question has come in. People have been adding vacation time onto business trips as long as there have been business trips. Why has it become noteworthy recently? Again, another great question. I believe nowadays is business corporations are looking at ways not only to maintain and keep employees, obviously employees' happiness and health are a driving factor in keeping them as well. But also when we look at things along the lines of, well, if they are extending their trip by 2 days and the airfare is decreased, well, that's a greater saving for the corporation. So what's interestingly enough is those types of questions may not have been asked in the past, but now it's becoming more noteworthy nowadays as corporations are becoming more cost savvy when it comes to their bottom line. So if a traveler, whilst they are extending, can save on the airfare, yes, they may be paying for accommodation personally, but if they're saving the corporation $100, for example, on the airfare, as opposed to if it was just a 100% business trip, I think corporations are now opening up to this and seeing that this is a great saving tool that the employees are actually taking part in. So I believe that is a very noteworthy point as to why it's more recent now. Another question's come in. Are companies really expecting business travelers to return their car rental and re-rent it so the personal portion is kept off the business insurance? Great question. We always get this. And again, this truly comes down to how you and how your corporation wants to see it. We do have some corporations that are incredibly strict that they do want to separate the business car rental portion and the personal car rental portion. And again, it comes purely down to the insurance portion of it all when it comes down to collision and liability. On the other hand, we do have some that say they are willing to cover them for the 1 or 2 additional days, because again, if they're saving on airfare, the saving on the airfare can then go towards the additional car rental days insurance. Again, no hard and fast rule, and our Travel On account managers will be more than willing to help and assist you in ensuring that whatever is implemented is best for you, the corporation and your employee. Another question, how does this impact GPS phone tracking of travelers? Are travelers turning off GPS tracking on their phones for the personal portion of the trip? Great question again. I can only speak on behalf of myself. Is when I take a vacation, I certainly like to go off the grid, off the radar. Again, this is certainly something that can be addressed internally. When it comes to duty of care, risk management is, yes, the employee is on their leisure portion of the travel, but it is part of the bigger picture, which is Bleisure, which is business leisure combined. So again, is this something that the traveler is needing to communicate back to the corporation to let them know where they are in case of an emergency? And especially when it comes to liability and insurance as well, is making sure of that. So again, this can be addressed in the policy. And a great segue, what are the risks to a company if the traveler has an accident during the personal portion of the trip? Totally on their own, or is the corporation obligated in some way because the traveler wouldn't have been there if it weren't for the business trip? Again, it comes down to determining whether the company wants to be liable and cover the employee while they are on the leisure portion of their business trip, or whether they don't. And again, avoiding ambiguity and setting the appropriate boundaries, and obviously considering the bigger picture, is paramount when implementing a travel policy. The last thing we want to have happen is an employee getting injured while on the leisure portion. So setting those expectations right from the get-go, if you are covering, that you will be provided with the relevant phone numbers and the company as to who to call in case of an emergency. Another question has just come in. Do you find companies put any limits on leisure activities in conjunction with business travel, i.e. no skydiving, to limit risk if there are grey areas? To be honest, I've kind of never ever thought about that, but a great question that comes up. So I guess if you as a corporation are assuming liability and will cover the employee, this might be a great point to stipulate no skydiving, for this example, no bungee jumping, no rock climbing, anything along that line. Now, again, the main thing is, and in this question they said to limit the risk if there are grey areas. Grey areas is where a lot of corporations are getting themselves into trouble. So making sure, again, you come back and set the expectations on your travel policy right from the get-go so that employees understand completely what they can and what they can't do. Now, again, if the company has stipulated no, they're not going to assume liability, and no, they're not going to cover them for the leisure portion of their business travel, then I guess the individual can go skydiving. But again, these are all things that you can sit and discuss internally with your stakeholders. And of course, you can then talk with our Travel-On account manager, who are very well rehearsed in Bleisure and travel policies, and can certainly throw a lot of ideas at you to ensure that the travel policy that you do implement will be a travel policy welcomed by all. We'll just wait a little more longer if there's any more questions that are coming in from our participants. Well, on that note, the webinar has been recorded and will be available for replay. If anyone on the call thinks of additional questions or would like more information on the subject, please contact your Travel-On account manager, who will be more than willing to help you in what can be considered a grey area coming to travel policies, but Travel On will certainly take the grey out and make sure that we're setting the expectations for you, your corporation, and your employees. And also, please mark your calendar now for the next monthly webinar. The date is August 29th. Topic and registration details will be advised shortly. Again, thank you all for your time today and enjoy the remainder of your day. Thank you.